Thank you for sitting down to watch Keys, a Palestine film. This is a documentary that I decided to make after attending the Cork Palestine Solidarity Campaign rallies, which occur every week since October 7th of 2023. I got to thinking about how I can contribute using my skill set to help the Palestine cause. Every week we would have fantastic Palestinian contributors telling their stories, halving their hearts with hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. So that got me thinking about how I can represent that, how I can pay it forward. Because we have a problem in terms of the events of October 7th, 2023, in that a lot of things in the media, a lot of the narrative is funneled through the lens of October 7th. So we want to take some agency and ownership back from that in order to humanize Palestinians, to bring them beyond the column inches, to bring them beyond the statistics, to allow them to tell their story. So from the greater Cork community, we have 5 Palestinian contributors, each telling their unique perspective. So sit back for the next 90 minutes and hear from those contributors. Thank you for watching. For Palestinians, the key symbolizes the right of return for those displaced during the 1948 Nakba. Many refugees took their house keys with them, believing that they would soon return, but they were barred from doing so. Today, keys represent both loss and hope, embodying the connection to their ancestral homes and the ongoing struggle for justice and the right to return. To truly understand the Palestinian cause, we need to look back. It is not a story confined to a single event. It is the weight of countless moments, a history etched in struggle and loss, injustices that echo across years, across decades, across generations.
My family comes from a village called Safuri, which is near Nazareth, al-Nasra, in northern Galilee, Palestine. My family, we have been living in there for like thousands of years until 1948, where my family was forcibly displaced, both from my father and my mother's sides. We were forcibly displaced into Lebanon, where they lived. My parents lived in refugee camps, and later on they met, and here I am. So in general, I would say like the history of my family is like we have been refugees since 1948. So I'm a third generation refugee. My family is like a normal, mostly they were villagers. They would have been villagers if they stayed in Palestine. However, they became refugees, and then they had to survive a lot of episodes of the genocide against Palestinians, including different wars and different genocidal acts. The history of my family is mostly about being victims of this genocide, victims that some of them survived, some of them not. And those who survived were continuously living on a daily survival mode.
I am a Palestinian citizen of Israel. I'm 17 years here in Ireland. I was born and grew up in Nazareth city in the Galilee in Palestine, Israel. And I was born to a family who were involved in politics all their lives. My granddad, he was one of the founders for the Communist Party, and he was jailed a few times since 1948, since May 1948, what we call it in the Palestinian terminology, it's the Nakba.
The Nakba, which translates to the word catastrophe, refers to the 1948 expulsion of over 750,000 Palestinians during Israel's creation. More than 15,000 Palestinians were killed, and over 500 villages were destroyed.
I grew up to find that police raiding our house to arrest my dad, my uncle, one of my uncles. That was something, I don't want to say it's normal, but it wasn't strange.
The Stas family has created in Al-Majdal, which is Ascalon, where the grandparents were in Palestine. They displaced to Gaza in 1948, and they lived in Gaza city and Deir al-Balah, and then we moved to the north during the time, and I have my parents, and I have five brothers, sorry, and one sister, and I'm the oldest one.
My grandparents were ethnically cleansed from Acre in Palestine in 1948, and they fled to Lebanon. And my grandmother, who is older than the occupation, she's 96 now, and she often recalls how the Israeli soldiers encroached upon the space, upon the land, and they shot all the neighbors, and they were all forced out of Palestine then, and they were promised to return to their homeland for over a year, and that promise was never fulfilled. And from 1948 to 2024, they haven't gone back, and we don't have a right to return to Palestine. And when my grandparents first arrived in Lebanon, they were living in tents, and as most refugees were at the time, and the tents turned into like cement blocks afterwards, and you would have like a one-room cement block buildings that were rising up at the time. And my parents also grew up in Lebanon, and they endured all the tragic refugee camps, wars in Lebanon, all of them, from Tel Zaatan massacre to Sabra and Shatila massacres. And I call them massacres, but it wasn't just one massacre.
I was born in the West Bank town of Halhul. It's north to Hebron. I had my basic education in the town until it's almost the second year, equivalent to second year here. And during the first Intifada, our school in the town used to be closed most of the year. It used to be open only 40 or 50 days maximum in the year.
For Palestinians, Intifada means shaking off. The first Intifada began in December 1987. The uprising erupted after an incident in Gaza where an Israeli military vehicle struck a Palestinian car, killing 4 Palestinians. For decades, Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza had lived under Israeli military rule, facing restrictions on movement, land confiscations, economic hardship, and a lack of basic human rights and sovereignty. The uprising was in response to the decades of cruelty and hostility imposed by the Israeli forces.
I was born under occupation, so I didn't live life where I felt free. Since I used to be a child, restrictions of movement, curfews, clashes in the town, sometimes military operations, etc. And as a child, we used to try to struggle, like going to school, sometimes finding some candies thrown in the street for children to take. And you know, children, when they find candies in the street, they would pick up, open and eat. And in some incidents, they used to be poisoned by settlers. So you would feel insecure always as a child. And when the first Intifada started, the school used to be attacked by settlers, soldiers on weekly basis. Sometimes some of the students would be martyred. Some of the teachers will be arrested. In one of the years, one of the classes finished the whole year with only 3 students. All the students were arrested due to a protest that ended violent with the soldiers. I had my uncle who helped me to move to Jerusalem, to a more stable school, which had a dormitory where I could live there during my studies. So I finished my secondary school education in East Jerusalem, town of Abu Dis, and then moved to Al-Quds University in East Jerusalem and finished my computer science degree.
I've been going most weeks for about 24 weeks, and I just It's just appalling that people around the world aren't doing more, including the governments, when there's people who are just like us who are being murdered every day. And I'm Jewish. I lost many relatives in the Holocaust, and I feel that this is very similar. In fact, it's the same, and I feel that ancestral guilt.
At the time of recording Leen's interview, on the 19th of October 2024, Beirut and southern Lebanon was under heavy bombardment. Her family had fled to northern Lebanon while her father remained in the south as a healthcare worker.
Dad is still working in Burj Barajni camp in Beirut amid the bombardments in an area that is heavily being bombarded right now as I speak. I was on the phone with my father actually yesterday, and he told me how he vividly recalls the day of the Ain Romane bus ambush.
In April 1975, in Beirut, the right-wing Phalangist Christian militia ambushed a bus carrying Palestinians and Lebanese allies, killing at least 27 people. This attack led to widespread sectarian violence across Lebanon, resulting in extensive loss of life.
He was on the bus himself with his childhood friends, and one of his best friends was trying to convince him to stay on the bus to play cards. But my dad had a celebration on that day in Shatila refugee camp, so he had to get off that bus, and he eventually got off that bus, and it was a decision that actually saved his life, because on that day, everybody in that bus was shot. My dad lost all of his childhood friends, and the attackers were members of the Phalangist right-wing militia in Lebanon. But essentially, this was an Israeli-instigated conflict along sectarian lines, so the blame would be on Israel, really. And this incident sparked it was a spark that ignited the civil war, Lebanese civil war in 1975. And then in 1982, that's when the PLO withdrew from Lebanon. And Israel, alongside the Phalangist party, they ignited the Sabra and Shatila massacres.
In September 1982, Palestinian refugees in the Sabra and Shatila camps endured a horrific massacre. Over 3 days, the Phalange militia, a right-wing Christian group allied with Israeli forces, entered the camps and slaughtered men, women, and children alike. Surrounded by the Israeli defense forces, the camps were lit up with flares to allow the militia go door to door, killing as they went. Escape routes were blocked, and the refugees were left defenseless.
My mom was pregnant at the time. She was studying in Beirut, and she was working at the same time because she was engaged to my dad, and they were trying to start a new life and so on. My dad was working in Gaza hospital in Shatila camp, refugee camp in Lebanon, and he witnessed all people being burned alive in bakeries, and the pregnant woman's bellies being split open. And he, alongside medical staff, they used ladders to, wrap them with blankets, to use them as stretchers to transport patients. And they were digging tunnels at the time as well, because ambulances were not allowed to go in. If an ambulance drove in, it would be instantly bombed, just like it's being bombed today. And tunnels at the time were not used for militant purposes at all. It was used for such medical purpose. The thing is, my mom had to flee with my grandmother to Bekaa Valley, and my dad had to stay to fulfill his duty in Beirut. And there was communication at the time was almost impossible. Now you have social media, everything is streamed online. But at the time, it was almost impossible to contact my mom, because the lines would only connect you with, if you're in Beirut, it would only connect you within Beirut area. And people did not know there was a massacre happening in Sabra Shatila until the 4th or 3rd day. It was a quiet massacre. People were militia was just going through, and Israeli soldiers just shooting people inside the camps.
My uncle was my father's brothers who got killed in 1996 when the Israelis trying to build the tunnels under the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So when the Intifada happened, my uncle was there, and they got shot in his head, and he got killed in that time.
I myself, I grew up on daily, almost like regular Israeli attacks on Lebanon, including like, bombardment of infrastructure, of homes, because especially after the Israelis withdrew from the Lebanese southern area in 2000. And I also witnessed the 2006 Israeli full war on Lebanon, where we had to live with the bombs and with the airplane raids and everything. That's for me. And beyond that, it's like a generational, or how can I say that? It's like a generational trauma or a generational violence that keeps on moving from one generation to the other.
For a long while, my mom thought that my dad had died, and until 1985, when there was another episode of Palestinian liquidation of their presence during the Lebanese Civil War, and this time it was incited by the Amal movement. So the Amal militia party stormed Palestinian refugee camps at the time, and they stormed the Gaza hospital and they burned it down. And before they burned it down, my dad recalled, he was telling me the story of a visitor a neighbor had from Germany. And he barely knew that visitor, but that visitor was seeking shelter in the hospital, and he was begging my dad to give him a gown so he can put it on. Because at the time, being a medical staff was had slightly better chance at surviving, because every other patient was completely shot there. And so the Amal militia went in and they stormed the hospital, and they talked to the manager of the hospital, and they asked him to line up all the doctors and to identify who he knows and who doesn't. And then he went around the people and he was like, oh, I know this person, I know this surgeon, I know my dad. I don't know this person who's from Germany. And my dad said that they pulled him by the gown and they took him to the basement in the Gaza hospital to execute him. And then my dad, he chased them down, and he was trying to cover up. He felt bad for him. And he was basically just claiming, he's my cousin, he has nothing to do with it. So they took both my dad and the guy. Now that guy from Germany, he's not German, but he's from Germany, was shot eventually. My dad narrowly survived an execution because of an intervention of another Amal leaders, who some of whom, although involved in killing Palestinians, were still sympathetic to their cause. So he survived, and then all the Amal leaders later who were supporting Palestinians were also eventually killed, because Israel doesn't want anybody who is pro-Palestinian supporting Palestinians. In 1985, my mom thought my dad, convinced that my dad had died, because the news the Gaza hospital burned down was just, it reached them. And then my dad, at some point, he sent a staff from the Red Cross to my mom, and they brought her over. And then the shock on mom's face was, the way my dad described it, he was just like, it was a very powerful moment of reunion. My mom broke down in tears and she was in complete shock, and she was stubborn as well. She wanted to stay with my dad, and so she did. And then after the massacre, my parents both sought asylum in London for 9 months only, and they couldn't adjust to the environment there, so they had to go back to their roots, only for another massacre in Sabra and Shatila to erupt, and you know the rest. But it's the same what's happening right now. I mean, in Lebanon, my parents, my mom, my grandparent, my grandmother, and my aunts fled to the north of Lebanon. They're displaced. All their lives has been about wars, really. They've never known a life without one. And this is how all the intergenerational trauma is passed on to me, I guess.
I've been coming since the start because nothing's changed. The moment that war starts is one was outraged and very saddened. And incredibly, we're in exactly the same position with the same feelings. And so we have to keep marching, because to do nothing is not an option. We have to be heard. And it's gratifying to know that our voices are being amplified by demonstrations across the world. There's another demonstration in London today, there's a demonstration in Dublin, there are demonstrations taking place across the world, particularly in America, and it's great to be part of that movement. And hopefully we can have some effects.
I returned after 8 years of absence now because I was a refugee in Ireland. I'm not allowed to visit Palestine as long as I'm not fully Irish. So I had to stay out of Palestine all these years. There were a lot of changes before 7th of October, but after 7th of October, the changes have dramatically changed people's life. They set thousands of gates on every single entrance of every single town in West Bank that made their life so miserable. They changed the way they go to their jobs, to go to their schools, to do the normal shoppings, and it isolated every single town from each other. Like, for example, take the schools. Like every single town would have half of their teachers coming from the neighboring town, usually. So the restrictions and the closure of gates between the towns have forced the schools to change their classes to online classes. And this led to another issue which added a huge burden on families, especially families who have several children. You have to buy multiple tablets or phones for your children to attend their classes online, which is among the restrictions, among the lack of support for the families and the lack of work have led to many of the kids not even being able to attend their classes. You would find half of the family, for example, if they have only 2 phones or only 2 tablets and they have 4 children, like we'll find half of the children being able to attend their classes. And this have severely affected their education level.
The forced displacement, that was the first and biggest impact. And it's not just like a movement thing or like a settlement thing. It's more about depriving us of our identity, of our land, of our normal trajectory in life, not just as individuals, also as a unit and as a society. So like as a Palestinian refugee, you are deprived of being Palestinian in the first place because you are a refugee that has no state. And at the same time, you do not have the right to claim your basic rights in life and the right to return to your land. So you're just like a void in space, and you're actually a demographic problem that they will take care of one way or another. So if you're not killed, you're either being forced always to leave and to get further away from your land and from your cause and to become an individualistic human being who just looks to survive on a daily basis and not think about dignity, not think about society, not think about identity.
The occupation, it's the ugliest thing happened to me as the other Palestinians as well. We are not allowing to see each other like from different cities who living in Gaza. It's not like the people who is living in the West Bank. And they're under occupation already in 48 lands, like Nasra, Raqqa, or Jerusalem. We are not allowed to see each other. As a Palestinian man who was living in Gaza, I tried to issue a visas to study outside Gaza. And I tried like almost 2 years to getting my visa. And at the end, the visa finished and the crossing borders was closed. So this is one of the worst impacts happened to you. So you lost 2 years of your life and for nothing.
On the social level, the amount of support in the community you get as a child to protect you mentally and physically is something that shapes our identity. To be good to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family members, that's part of our heritage and culture due to the struggle under occupation. And on the political level, you because we were struggling for justice all the time, you would always advocate for all people who share the same demand and the same need.
Being Palestinian citizen of Israel is different than being Palestinian in West Bank or in Gaza or in a refugee camp. When I studied for my undergraduate, so it was in Haifa University, we don't have Palestinian universities inside Israel. We have to be educated in Hebrew. So it was there. You have a direct or kind of direct connection with the other, and you feel how the injustice and discrimination between the other and you, just because you were born as for Palestinian minority, and they don't recognize us as Palestinian minority. They call us as Arab Israeli.
There's a list of impacts for Palestinians in Lebanon. One, you're stateless. You're considered as a foreigner. You're not considered as an equal citizen. And if there's anything that erupts in the camps, like a crime or whatever, the Lebanese state has no authority over the camp. So they don't interfere in any way. And during Lebanese elections, for example, Palestinians are isolated within the camps. And I think that is this is an arrangement as part of the Cairo Agreement, but it was annulled in 1987, I guess, but its legacy still goes on. I think the most challenging things for a Palestinian young person in Palestinian refugee camp is the restrictions on employment, because Palestinians are barred from working in over 70 professions, and that includes medicine and law and construction and public service and so many other jobs. So young people in the camps are, they're figuring out any way to get out of the camp, to migrate, to provide for their families. And this is why I'm here. This is why I traveled to Ireland, because I have no right of working in Lebanon.
When I was in Al Hol last July, I was meeting with the mayor of our city, and they told us we have received notification from the Ministry of Interior, led by Ben-Gvir and his team, saying that they are not allowed to issue building licenses in Area B. Now, to give you a background, West Bank is divided, according to Oslo Accords, to 3 regions: A, B, and C. And A are the central, the centers of the cities and towns in West Bank, and it forms about 18% of the total West Bank area. And Area B, and now Area E, is completely under the administrative and security control of Palestinian Authority. Now, Area B is shared between Israelis and Palestinian in terms of security, and they allowed Palestinian Authority to issue building licenses in Area B, which forms about 22%. Now, after Oslo Accords, this was a relief for Palestinians because they were densely populated in Area B, in Area A, and they were not allowed to build homes and properties in Area and other areas. So people started building in the last 2 decades in these areas. Now, Area C is fully controlled by Israelis, administrative, security, and all other aspects, even planning wise. So all confiscations and all violence happen in Area C, which is 60 to 61% of West Bank area. Now, the correspondence that arrived to all municipalities in West Bank by the Ministry of Interior is that they are going to change Area B to C, which makes all buildings, all houses, all schools that have been built over the last 2 decades in this area to become illegal, and they have the right to demolish them. So if this happens, like if they apply it, for example, in our town, more than 50% now the homes are built in Area B. They will become under threat to be demolished. They will become by default under demolition orders. Many villages don't have their own hospitals. If a woman is giving birth and the gates are closed, she would not be able to go to to the hospitals, because it's not a checkpoint that you go and ask the soldiers to allow you to you have an emergency. It's a gate that's closed and unattended. There is only a few soldiers in the tower that would shoot you if you try to open the gate. So life is really miserable. It used to take me about 40 minutes, for example, from Jericho when I entered the borders to our town in Hebron. And last time it took me 3 hours to arrive.
When people ask you where you're from and you say you're from Palestine, and then you tell them your story that you're a Palestinian refugee who has never seen their country, or never been able to visit, not to visit, to live in their land actually. And then the confusion starts all along with like, yeah, but how is that and how does that happen? So there's this kind of, like, I would say, like an emotional violence that is a result of the occupation itself. And also, like, if you wanted to live your life as a Palestinian, it's not an easy thing, and you will always be like surrounded by obstacles and surrounded by, you know, a lot of restrictions and a lot of you know, like less opportunities in terms of work, in terms of careers, in terms of freedom of speech as well. And we are seeing that, especially like in many countries in the Western globe, and also on other countries around the world. So these are some of the like direct impacts and the daily impacts of the occupation, and that's not like restricted to one section of Palestinians. It's mostly about being Palestinian in general. Because that itself is a political statement, and for our enemy, it's like, this is like exactly what makes them feel vulnerable. That us being ourselves is like it's like against everything that they tried to do throughout this genocide.
Our situation is very complicated because we have the Israeli passport, the Israeli citizenship. We don't have our own autonomy. We are connected to the Israeli system. In West Bank and Gaza is you know, they are under the PA, the Palestinian Authority. So and that's the situation. East Jerusalem is another, because the Palestinian citizens of East Jerusalem, they are kind of another group that they don't have Palestinian passport. They have kind, laissez-passer, something that they don't have Israeli citizenship like us. So they are kind in between. And for us, like even PLO, we are not represented in PLO. And that's one of the things that I think the Palestinian leadership, they failed. Because when they spoke about peace negotiations, they spoke about Palestinian refugees, but they didn't speak about internal displaced Palestinians who are internal refugees inside Israel. And in 1948, 70% of the Palestinians who remained in Israel, they are internal displaced Palestinians. And they became refugees in their homeland. And that's the PLO, they didn't put our case in their agenda. The Israeli state never recognized us as minority, as a national minority. They recognize us as either religious groups, Muslim, Christians, Druze. That's how they recognize us. So what they want us, like with everything, you will find discrimination. The budget, the streets, the lights, the facilities, scholarships to go into universities, having a student accommodation in the university. You need one condition is that you need after serving in the army, and we don't serve in the army. So that's straight away you are not included in these things. Going to any office, you will be treated different than Jews. Going out of from the airport, you will be treated completely different, like you're a criminal. And the way that they will search your luggages.
We have, for example, relatives in south of Hebron that we used to drive only 20 or 25 minutes to arrive them from our town. But the last time it took me about an hour and a half to arrive the gate of the town. I dropped my children at the gate. They had to cross the gate by walking, and their aunt was waiting them on the other side. So the mobility have been restricted so much, and that affected every aspect of their life.
My mother has a cancer, and she was struggling to get the medicine, and that medicine wasn't it wasn't founded in Gaza. So she tried to travel to Nablus, which is another city in Palestine, and the Israelis rejected her 7 times to allow her to go to there to get her medicine. And they accepted her finally with the 8 times. So this a symbol, examples about the daily life of the Palestinians.
We have unrecognized villages inside Israel, and those villages they suffer from a lack of infrastructure, no electricity, no running water, everything done there funded by the families, by the locals, or by NGOs, not by the state, because simply the state want to ethnic cleanse these areas and to take them. So since 1948, no Arab town or village was established. Only Jewish areas were developed and established and added to extend it, while none of the Arab ones, actually it's the opposite. They want to concentrate us in specific areas in order to control us.
There are things that happen in the camp that nobody really knows about. Like, you never read about it in the news. And this happened literally last month. There was a gang in the refugee camp that, promised a group of young Palestinians to help them migrate illegally. And they would rob these people for the money of these people. And there is a case of human trafficking, after all. And then the news will never mention how their parents actually protested in front of the Lebanese airport, for example, because they want their children to be released. You'll never hear about this in the news. And as for the infrastructure itself, that's indescribable. Very overpopulated, dilapidated conditions, and there's a ceiling of electric wires hanging overhead, a feet overhead maybe, and you have to brush off the electric wires to pass through the very narrow alleyways. So the conditions are pretty bad.
Many of the Palestinian cities rely on agriculture, and many of city will be famous of producing certain kind of vegetables. So there will be some exchange normally of products between the different cities. And because of the closure, you will find it very hard to sell your products to other cities in the north, for example, and very hard for you to import the other produce from the other cities. So you will find some missing items that are extremely high, expensive, and some other items that are very cheap because they are produced locally. And the winner in this situation are Israeli products. They're easy to reach every single town in Palestine. They push them powerfully, like and very quickly, and they are available to be bought everywhere. And you will because of the poverty and because of the lack of resources, you will find people, when they find a local product that is expensive because it's not available from other cities, they would take the Israeli product, and they try to take advantage from these restrictions.
We are sieged since 2006. They're not allowing everything to get in Gaza. You're not allowed to travel, and there's lots of troubles you brought it on you when you're trying to travel or to get your medicine to work and everything, even the food and the water as well.
Israel has long controlled water and food supplies to pressure Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. Since 1967, Israel has dominated water sources, allocating approximately 80% of the West Bank's water reserves to Israeli settlements. The blockade on Gaza, in place since 2007, has further exacerbated these issues. By 2022, 78% of piped water in Gaza was unfit for human consumption. The blockade also limits essential supplies like food and medicine. After October 7th of 2023, Israel tightened these controls. On October 9th, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced a total blockade on Gaza, stating, "No electricity, no food, no water, no gas," and leaving the area in total darkness.
I was doing a research about services for childcare, and this research was funded by American Jewish Foundation, and so myself and the colleague, she's a Jewish, and we did in different areas, and one of those areas was a town next to Nazareth, and because they knew that I am an Arab, simply the parents they left the room, and that about service for their kids, not for my kids. So that's one of the things. You don't know whose extremists that they will roar at you, dirty Arab, or they shout at you or break your car. So it's different, but you will find this in the back of your head. And I know some people that they prefer not to speak in Arabic in Jewish areas. They will speak in Hebrew in order to avoid any hassle, because we speak Hebrew. That's how we speak Hebrew. Like we were educated in the school and in the colleges as well.
You see many speeches for their ministers, for their leaders. They're always talking really about Gaza and the West Bank to be an Israeli land. And they say every one of the people in Gaza want to be safe wherever. Whenever it's getting worse like this, you want to be survived. You want to be alive. We love to be alive. We don't love to be dead or fighting all the time or in war situation all the time. Everyone know that person who is journalist and they're attacking him. Everyone know that their children in the car, but they're still bombing the car because they want the people who is outside the country and inside Gaza to feel scared to be here. So they want them to be displaced, moving wherever you want, but don't stay here.
What I can see that each time the Israeli far right, they're getting stronger. And that caused that even to look at the current government inside Israel. You can't speak to them. They have their own story. There is nothing to change. As I said, I'm an optimistic person. In this case, only if Israel will change their governments, I can see that there is a hope about having better future for both of us.
Since 1967, Israel has operated a vast network of prisons targeting Palestinians. As of 2024, over 10,000 Palestinians are behind bars, with over 3,000 held without charge or trial under administrative detention. Shockingly, hundreds of these detainees are children, many accused of minor offences like stone throwing, a charge that can lead to a 20-year prison sentence. Detainees, including minors and the seriously ill, endure horrific conditions, overcrowding, medical neglect, and abuse. Families are left in constant fear as detentions are renewed indefinitely. International law ignored. The UN, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch have all condemned Israel's blatant violations. To Palestinians, this is occupation at its most ruthless.
People who are imprisoned by Israel are like, some of them go through like what's called administrative detention, which is like there's no charges, no trials, and they will just stay there for as long as the Israeli authorities feel like. And of course, they go through different aspects of tortures, those of what we know and we do not know.
Walid Daka, a Palestinian writer and political prisoner, spent nearly 4 decades in Israeli prisons, accused of involvement in the killing of an Israeli soldier. This despite serious doubts about the evidence against him. His conviction relied heavily on coerced confessions and questionable evidence. Despite enduring decades of incarceration, Daka authored influential works exploring Palestinian identity and resistance.
Walid Daka, he spent more than 35 years and he's Palestinian citizen for Israel. He got married inside the prison. They sneaked his sperm to his wife and she got pregnant. And he never hugged his daughter.
Walid Daka was like one of the oldest Palestinian prisoners who has been there for like decades in the Israeli prison and has been kept even after his sentence was done. He was left to die from cancer, and so they do not give them any medical support or any care in the prisons, and they punish them in terms of solitary confinement and other types of torture. And I repeat that there's a lot of torture that we don't know about.
The treatment there is very bad, very, very bad. You can spend months in 1 meter, even you can't sleep, you can't lie down, you can't communicate. Another example, there is Ahmad.
Ahmad Manazra's case is a harrowing example of the brutalization of Palestinian children under Israeli occupation. In 2015, at just 13 years old, Ahmad was arrested after an alleged stabbing incident in the occupied East Jerusalem. Video footage showed him lying on the ground, bleeding, while Israeli settlers surrounded him, verbally abusing, taunting, and physically assaulting him. Despite his injuries, Ahmed was denied immediate medical attention and was subjected to harsh interrogation without the presence of his family or a lawyer. According to human rights organizations, his conviction was based on questionable evidence, with many arguing there was no clear proof that Ahmed had been involved in the stabbing. Despite this, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison.
His famous sentence was, I can't remember anything.
شو كتبتوا بتعملوا له كمان مرة؟ مش متذكر والله مش متذكر ها؟ أنا بحكي لك تحلف كمان باسم الله؟ مين هذا الله الخرا اللي حكى لكم بنت المحتككين؟ كسر كلها!
He's already 10 years, Ahmed, in the prison, and he was a child. And I wonder where are those international organizations that defending the children's rights. Right now, he's suffering from mental illness because of the torture that he had in the prison. He wasn't allowed to see his family. And can you imagine about 14 years old child being in this hostile situation?
The whole prison experience for Palestinians is constructed on like psychological ideas on how to defeat the Palestinians and how to reform the Palestinian soul in a way to become a slave for the Israelis. That's it. That's the basic idea of it, and how to, you know, just kill any thought of resistance and resilience in Palestinians. And that's why, like, it's like a continuous cycle of violence that affects like almost all Palestinians, especially in the West Bank. And that was the case in Gaza before 2005, when Gaza was under occupation. It was the same case like the West Bank. So this idea, this experience of prison, like for now we have like more than 13,000 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons, and on a daily basis there are raids and there are people who are getting tortured in prison, and this has also escalated in the last months. So yeah, I mean, the experience of prison is more about like torture. It's more about trying to kill the soul of Palestinians, and trying to, you know, defeat Palestinians inside prison and outside prison by, you know, terrorizing people and saying, you know, this is what will happen to you if you, if you try to fight back, and even like if you don't fight back, this is what will happen to you. But again, it's also an experience of resilience. It's also an experience of people who are trying to fight back, like what happened with our 6 prisoners who managed to escape from Jalboua prison a couple of years ago, which was a miracle, considered that it's one of the most secure prisons around the world. And they managed to escape, to actually free themselves. We don't say escape, because they are free people who are being imprisoned unjustly. So this episode like kind of summarized the other face of the Palestinian experience in prisons, which is like, as much as we get, you know, defeated and beaten and tortured, but we also fight back, and we are resilient, and we can achieve our freedom even though they don't want us to have that.
How could you not be here? It's the bare minimum, really. From the start, it's the bare minimum to show up. Just solidarity with everybody in Gaza, men, women and children. It's just so sad. So that's why I'm here.
I don't believe that it's right for innocent children, women, doctors, nurses to be targeted. I think that 75 years is long enough for people to be oppressed. As a Black American, I understand, and it really resonates with me, oppression.
Palestinians continue to endure significant mental health challenges due to Israel's ongoing siege on Gaza, their intensive bombing of South Lebanon, and their horrendous treatment of Palestinians in the West Bank. Trauma experts report alarmingly high rates of mental health disorders, particularly among women and children. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency notes that exposure to traumatic experiences in Gaza is chronic and unrelenting, defying traditional coping mechanisms. Children, in particular, suffer from sleeplessness, night terrors and bedwetting, indicating deep psychological distress. But this does not just affect Palestinian civilians. The targeting of health workers and the destruction of healthcare infrastructure exacerbates these issues, limiting access to essential mental health services. Mental health professionals themselves in Palestine are also affected. A study published in June of 2024 found that more than 1/3 of Palestinian mental health professionals are at high risk of receiving a clinical diagnosis of PTSD.
Each Palestinian family and household, they suffer directly from occupation. Either they lost a family member, either they were injured, house demolition, either they were jailed or one of their families were jailed. Like I'm looking at, again, at Walid Daqqa's daughter. She's, I think, 4 or 5 right now. She didn't see her father face to face. She didn't hug her father. So what childhood you are expecting from this child? What do you expect from a child who witnessed his father being tortured, or his mom being abused on Czech border? What we're expecting from this situation?
Palestinians in general are a testament of how the bandwidth of resistance can grow and grow and grow. But I don't think we want to be perceived as resilient and resistant all the time. I mean, when I think, it's painful to me when I think about the unlived lives of my family and my grandparents. I am resilient, but I didn't choose to be resilient. And so the idea of Palestinian resilience shouldn't be romanticized or glorified or expected from a Palestinian. We are this one population that is constantly living in survival mode, but we're simultaneously living, through joy amid chaos. We find joy amid the chaos. And this is how we've lived entire lives, because we've been colonized all our lives. And whether it's me, my parents, my grandparents, and I think the Palestinian experience itself goes way beyond the PTSD label and the Western concepts of, psychology in general. And I'm really tired of psychology being detached from political and historical contexts. I don't want my trauma to be seen in isolation. I don't want it to be individualized and seen outside the frame of identity, really. Because there's a lot of suppressed anger there and a lot of repressed emotions there, and that shouldn't be normalized. In fact, psychology should take into account that element of intergenerational trauma, an element of politics and psychology. Politics and psychology are not separate. They're intertwined, really. And I think I struggle with that with a lot of the therapy community. There's a therapy community that's dedicated for Palestine here, but more generally, they're not aware of decolonial, psychology.
I've lived 3 wars in Gaza in 2008. I was around that time 12 years old, and I was studying, and suddenly they bombed a police graduation, and it wasn't, as they say, a massacre. It was, anyway, I just went out. I haven't seen that bomb voice before, shooting everywhere. It was like a judgment day. Like lots of people walking around and running out from the bombs. I went to my sister. She was little, and I went her to see where she is, and I got her home. And it was for 23 days. We had no water, and the food was so bad at that time. And then 2012, it started when they bombed the leader of Hamas. And then I was playing football in that time. It was November 2012. And then it was 10 days. It wasn't that much, but we lived in a bad situation. As I saw, they bombed the house next to us, next to our house. And we went there, and we saw how bad is the bomb, as 9 people got killed. And then 2014, for me, it was the worst one, because it was 51 days. And I think my friend got video from a house bombed badly in that time. It was so strong. And they shot three children so close to our house. They shot them, and 2 of them injured, and 1 of them got killed. It was really bad, and this is one of the stories I do remember. And I have lots of friends. As I told you, my uncle, and this only in Gaza. Imagine there's a West Bank, and there's lots of people has their own story and their experience about what they have seen, who got killed, shot, arrested by the Israelis.
I think the past year has given me a clarity on the kind of people I want to surround myself with. If you're not willing to show up for Palestinians, and if you're not willing to put in the effort to read into what's happening in my country, bye. I don't need you in my life. And whatever you're complaining about, in general feels superficial to me. I'm not judging you, but it feels superficial to me. And yes, there is a lingering guilt. And there's guilt for me, especially in the past few weeks. Guilt for the fact that I'm far away from my home in Lebanon. Guilt because I am safe. There's a roof on top of my head. And I'm not displaced like the millions that's displaced in Palestine and Lebanon in the streets and who are sleeping in the tents. And there's also guilt because I'm trying to get support and funding for my family who are displaced in northern Lebanon, but they found a house, but I just need the funding for it. I feel guilty because it almost feels like my family's experience is not valid because there are other people have it worse. Other people are sleeping in the street. So there is guilt. And there's guilt when I want to complain about me being sleepless because I am glued to my phone all the time and I'm doom scrolling on social media and I'm catching on Al Jazeera all the time. But again, there's people are being ethnically cleansed in Palestine and in Palestine at the moment. So there is guilt, but I think as part of the movement, it's really important to watch out for signs of burnout. And I'm saying that I'm really bad at that given that I'm a Palestinian. But I think it's really important to step in when somebody else needs a break. It's like a work in rotation. And this is how you can make the movement sustainable as well. And the best way I found to actually channel that guilt is through, effective anger and through action. And I always advise people, like, wherever you're working, whatever institution you belong to, or the field of expertise, you can always talk about Palestinians with friends and families. You can always organize and take action around the Palestinian cause the best way.
We have done iftar, which is dinner for a group of people between the Palestinian and the Irish community here. And we have done it at S Cafe. At that time, I start feeling guilty because I know we can buy everything. We can get everything easy. We have the money and we have the place. We don't have any rush or we are in safe place. But on the other hand, your family want water. They're dreaming of that food that you will get. But I did something to let me not feeling that feel. You know what I mean? I collected money and I sent it to Gaza. To buy chicken, and they got lots of families got that chicken, and they got lots of messages to thank me about this food because they haven't seen that in 5 months. So this is one of the way I can avoid my feeling from feeling guilty. Whenever I see like group of people who bombed in front of you and they got pieces, and like they got body pieces, and you see lots of bloods and hands cut off from their bodies, I feel guilty because I know it's not my fault, but still you can feel guilty because you can eat and drink, you go free wherever you want and safe place, while your people and family are not safe. I found it hard to be survived or from the mental health or psychology because I'm looking for a good doctor. Again, it's not my fault, but you'll feel guilty because this is your family and this your relatives are struggling and suffering. It's a feeling I'm not wishing to anyone in the world.
My family, they are all remained in Nazareth. Yes, my grandparents' land was confiscated. But being a refugee who can see their land, but internal refugee, but they can't go and they can see some strangers who live in their houses and they use their own tools and play with their toys. They can see them and they can't do anything. The mental health, it's affected, and that, by the way, that also cause health issue that cause lots of sickness. Our Palestinian age is, if you will find a Palestinian of age 70, oh, he's old or she's old. Because the occupation and all the pressure, the anxiety, the stress that we live with, it develop diabetes, develop heart disease, develop high cholesterol, develop other sicknesses that we have to live with, and that affect our quality of life.
I don't support genocide, and I think Palestine has been under attack since 1948. This didn't begin on the 7th of October, and it's very important that the people come out and that the government listen to us. The media coverage here isn't adequate. It often supports the Israeli Zionist line. So I think the government really needs to listen to the people, and we need to do more.
One of my best friends from medicine is Palestinian. So I've known about the Palestinian struggle for a long, long time, and I just couldn't stand and do nothing. She is unfortunately living in the States, and it wasn't safe for her to say anything. And all of her family that were left in Gaza are now dead. So I feel it's my duty as a healthcare worker to stand up for anyone who is being discriminated against. And I just can't stand by and watch this happen, and I wish I was doing more.
Have you been an activist in Cork for a long time? Yeah. Going back a long time?
Going back to 89.
And do you ever remember a protest like this in Cork that happened?
Never. There's children and old people, period. The whole people.
And what makes you join the protest every week?
Just people in Palestine know about doing this, and that's important to them. Could get them a boost, like they're getting absolutely destroyed, like genocide, terrible. Keep it up, you keep it up.
The controlling powers of the world, especially the US imperialism and their allies, focus much on our conflict, on the conflict of the Arab-Israeli conflict or the Zionist project in Palestine in terms of their interests. So they do view this as a very much of a beneficial project that will provide them with interests in terms of oil and gas and strategic positioning in the world, and of course trying to take control of the region, the whole what we call now Middle East, to have like a bargaining card against Russia and China and other powers in the world. So for me, like I would look at it in terms of interests, and I would see like the what we call now the West, or like the US allies and the NATO coalition. They look at this in terms of like a very beneficial project for them, regardless of how much it might, lead to murders and to genocidal acts, because all they care about is like having more and more power in this world. So whereas on the other side, there's another aspect or another face of the international community, which is also like present in countries and in people who are actually in solidarity with Palestine. Some of them don't have the means to stop what's going on, and we understand that because they themselves might be under siege, they themselves might be under wars, they themselves are actually subjected to the US imperialism.
What's happened since the 7th of October and the genocide and the massive genocide that's happening there, it mobilized lots of people and lots of movements, and we can see now what's happening in America and in the US universities, even in the Arab world. And then you can see the difference and the gap between the people and the public and what's going on the street and the governments.
We all know the politics is different than what real people want to do or want to say. The politics always has, for my opinion, it's about business and it's about their own benefits. Like what the USA and UK and European governments, and I'll say I'm not scared from anyone. They're trying to support the occupier and whatever they saw, from the genocide and the ethnic cleansing, it's always about their benefit.
The international community, in terms of like the official international community, yeah, it's easy to say they have failed Palestinians, but who has really failed Palestinians? Is it the ones who are actually allies of the Zionist project and they're the fathers and the mothers of the Zionist project, or is it actually the ones who can do something and are not doing something? So if we look at it in terms of interests, we can see that these people have no interest in stopping the genocide. We're talking about, as I said, the more of the Western U.S. imperialism group or side, compared to the other side, which is the international community that is also suffering from U.S. imperialism, which in one way or another is trying to stop this genocide and is trying to support Palestinians, be it through direct support or through indirect political pressure.
You can witness, especially with the social media, murdering of people, and simply you have to keep the anger inside you, or just to go outside and participate in a protest, and you feel that the politics is and politicians sometimes they will do just in order to protect themselves, not what's correct.
The United Nations as well, they tried lots of times to do something to stop the war, and they have many ideas to ceasefire, but always you see USA there to vote for not ceasefire and to complete this genocide against the Palestinian. And if you see the difference between their opinion about the Ukrainian war and the Palestinian war, it's absolutely different. You'll see how the hypocritic is going on. We feel disappointing, of course, all the time, because the most ugliest thing when you see them justifying that there is hostages held by the Palestinian or whoever, Hamas, or but they don't care about like the other side, as there's 40 or 50,000 people who got killed. So they all the time, if they want to look for a solution or to stopping this war, first they start with releasing the hostages, and then the aid, and then for people who got killed. They are saying it just a numbers. They don't say that, but it seems from their speech. We are not a numbers, and they will know that. The other hand, the thing that they have to know, there is a 10,000 prisoners in Israel, and there is maybe over 2,000 of them are children. Why we didn't see any of the leaders around the world talking about them? This is the difference between the leaders of the countries who are standing with Israel and standing against the Palestinian. And that makes the world worry about the future of the world, how they are acting with the strong side and how they are acting with the weak side. This makes us worry and disappointing. I was surprised about the people and the community in Ireland. I have lots of friends here. They have the same story with the occupation, and they got oppressed, colonized for long years. I think if you felt pain once and you see another one who having the same pain, you will automatically feel his pain. I'm so proud to be Palestinian. I'm grateful and proud to be oppressed, and I'm proud to be fighting for my rights and to let people and the world know what's happened to my people through the histories of the years. It's a good thing to see how is the Irish community supporting the Palestinian, and I haven't seen any of the communities around the world, even the Arabs, who is surrounding us in the Middle East. I haven't seen this support before, so we are grateful to be an island and to see this support and solidarity from them.
We both fought colonialism, occupation. We both were facing brutal forces trying to uproot us from our land. We both faced the attempts to undermine our culture and suppress. For example, in the Irish case, your language and our culture. In the Palestinian case, economically, we both were highly margined. Our resources were taken by the oppressors, and we were marginalized. And we will keep struggling, like the Irish, who luckily happened to become independent, and we hope to be independent one day.
What happened in October 7, it's not new, but it's new for them that they got hurt. Israelis got hurt. This is what they say, and it's like 800, and we don't want to hurt any civilians. As I'm civilians, and I have my family are civilians, and lots of my friends who got killed are civilians. We don't want to see anyone hurt of the civilians, but they have to know that we are suffering since 1948, even before that, when the World War II happened and British occupied Palestine in 1917 till now. There are lots of stories, and I can, if I mention it now, I need 2 or 3 days to say it. But it started from October 7. This is what they say, and at least the Palestinian case in their agenda now, and there still will be until Palestine will be free. It's not time to be scared from anything, because through the years you'll be asked what you have done for this humanitarian. Even we will not say Palestine or whatever. You will be asked for what you have done for this humanitarian case. There's lots of people, they are hungry, and you were able to help them. What you have done for them. Did you speak? Did you donate? Did you share? What you can say. If you say no, you're gonna be embarrassed, or you will feel ashamed from that, and it's not time to be scared. I know you're gonna be like annoyed from the places where you're living on. It depends which place, like Germany or USA or UK, but do whatever you can do. Don't be scared. It's not time to be scared or from anything.
Being Palestinian could be hard at times, because you feel like you might feel unheard, you might feel restricted in some places, censored in many places. But at the same time, it also would be, on a personal level, it gives me motivation to move on. It gives me motivation to actually feel that this path, the hardships in this path, are actually what makes me convinced that it's the right path and it's worth going through, because all the sacrifices of our people and all the injustice as well, and the huge and very apparent injustice that's happening, makes it clear for us that, you know, it's worth going through this to actually achieve a better place for the new generations, not just for Palestinians, but for the whole world as well.
Since this war happened, October or even before that. We're always dreaming to be free and to have our own airport, to visit the other cities easy. Imagine if I met some friends from the West Bank outside Palestine. I'm always thinking if I met him in Palestine, what will the feeling be like? I want to feel like I want to see the cities. They all the world talking about it, like the Holy Land and Bethlehem, Jerusalem. I want to make my own food in Jerusalem. I want to visit all cities there. And I'm always saying that I want to walk. I'm not using a car or bicycle there. I want to walk all over the country. I want to feel how is to be freed looks like. That's it. That's it. This is what it comes on my mind when I want to feel happy. I know it's hard at the moment to be happy, but still there is a hope. And you see how is the stories, like for example Ireland, it's free, and you see how people are visiting the cities easy. We are thinking the same. We have the same story. I know it's gonna be time, but at the end it will be free, and we will be moving in the country easy, and this makes us like motivated to be happy, even if 1,000 years or 2,000 years, even if we dead. And it will not be free if you don't fight for it, and the other people don't fight for it. But the end will be free. If you agree to be under occupation, they're never gonna be free. This is the point.
It's the nostalgia that you have about your own childhood, your own country, your own family, your own land, your own memories. So even like to make the manakish, to smell the smell of it when you bake it, that's remind me with my own Palestine, little Palestine. And even I still bring the thyme and the herbs from home, just because the smell, because that's connected to our childhood, to my childhood. And yes, I look at Palestine and I love it. Like, even for us, we never we had this kind of dilemma, not dilemma, like, no, you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there. And but it's connected with everything. And now I am thinking like, okay, when I will die, where they are going to, where I want to be buried. Like I'm connected to Nazareth, Palestine, and at the same time my kids are here. So that's one of those that I'm about the future. Like I'm thinking, because I call it home, and it's home. I'm 17 years. I feel Irish, but that's my own home, my own childhood, my own memories, my parents, grandparents, friends, relatives. That's my home. Tawfiq Zayad, he was a poet. He was a politician, MK, a member of the Knesset. He was Lord Mayor of Nazareth, and he was a leader and a grass fighter and a grassroots leader. He said, we will remain here, and we are like a 20 impossible, and we are remaining everywhere in Palestine. He brought the Jalil, where Nazareth is, about the Nakba, in everywhere. So that's the code that I will say, we will remain there. It doesn't matter. I may not be there, but I'm sure that the next generation will remain there.
Many people spend their lifetime looking for a purpose in life. I always say that we Palestinians, we have been born with a very simple and direct purpose. I do believe that the liberation of Palestine and the victory of Palestine is not just restricted to Palestinians or to Arabs. It's a victory for all the colonized people around the world. I always think of the people who have been genocided and no one even talks about because they have not been documented in the first place. I always think about the islands where nuclear trials were happening and people were killed in tens of thousands. And no one talks about them, maybe just in some documentaries. I think the victory of Palestine will put an end to this vicious cycle of colonialism and atrocities that are happening due to imperialism. There's a quote that is very much related to Ireland, and it's not about Palestine, but it's about Palestine one way or another. Based on all the pain that we are going through and all what's happening, I quote, "Our revenge will be in the laughter of our children."
What better way to end the documentary than with Nidal quoting Bobby Sands? I hope you found this documentary informative, and I'm going to end it here with Sabra and Palestine.
Genocide will be televised out across the world tonight for all of humankind to see. The genocide will be televised on Al Jazeera and across social media for everyone to see. To see the bodies of the babies being pulled from the rubble where human limbs lay scattered around, the burnt aftertaste of the panic and terror that an hour before bore a harrowing sound. The sound of the screams and the crushing of concrete as the buildings collapsed and came tumbling down. The sound of the bombs that forever will haunt you, that never will leave and always follow you round. Like the cries of a girl as her leg is amputated, without anaesthetic see them cut through the bone. All in real time now, 24/7, we helplessly watch as the horrors unfold. The genocide will be televised out across the world tonight for all of humankind to see. The genocide will be televised on mobile phones and tablet screens for everyone to see. To see the terror in the eyes of a parentless child in a refugee camp, traumatized all alone, lying on the ground under a sheet made of plastic and the constant hum of an overhead drone. Or the piles of dead corpses piled up in the streets as the mass graves they overflow. The smell of dead flesh hanging hard in the air, a perfume of sorrow and woe. To witness the death of a nation of people, to hear their anguished pleading cries as we watch it unfolding 24/7 right in front of our very eyes. The genocide will be televised out across the world tonight for you and me to see. The genocide will be televised, yet our world leaders won't do a thing, as they all pay lip service to murderous war pigs. The genocide will be televised and sponsored by McDonald's and given away free on Blu-ray DVD with every Happy Meal. The genocide will be televised and brought to you in conjunction with the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which apparently no longer means a fucking thing.